On this episode of Left Off the Map, we're heading to southern Tasmania to the Huon region to catch up with the ex-Premier and ex-Minister for Tourism, Will Hodgman. Now, the Huon area was Will's electorate, so he knows a lot about it. The Huon area was also very, very famous for apple growing. So we're going to show you a great apple recipe before we go and catch up with the ex-Premier and go to a place called Willie Smith's Apple Shed, which has a whole history of apples, and also they're making some apple spirits and apple cider now. So apples, 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 they're the king of the day. And we're making sort of a bread and butter custard with apples and blueberry. So I've got my bread, which is sourdough bread, which I've just chopped into chunks. Yep, I'm gonna pop that into a little roasting tray. So evenly spread that out in the tray itself. Now I'm going to make my custard and my wet ingredients to pour over the top of that. So we've got butter, hence it's a bread and butter pudding. It's about 75 grams of butter. Now butter melting away. Into my bowl I'm going to add some blueberries. Good, yeah, do all of them. About 125 grams of blueberries. Some oats, which I'm going to put just a little sprinkle of oats, and then I'm going to sprinkle some oats on the top at the end. Corn flour, because when the apples cook, they're going to stew a little bit. My eggs, which I want 2 of, pop them in. One more. Mix that all around. I need some sugar in there with all that. Probably about a quarter of a cup to a third of a cup. Because the apples and the blueberries are going to be quite sweet, we don't need a huge amount. Mix all that together. We're not making a creme anglaise, so you don't have to go through that process like you would if we were making a wet custard. This is just an egg mix that we're going to make for our bread and butter pudding. Okay, so we've got that mixed. Maple syrup. I love maple syrup and blueberries. One of my favourite food combinations or flavour combinations. A little bit of vanilla. I reckon it's going to need a little bit more corn flour. I wanted the custard to sort of be like a baker's custard. All right, my apples. The whole reason, my butter can go in once that's cooled down. My apples, the purpose of this whole recipe. So I want these to be in sort of bite-sized pieces, probably slightly smaller, about the same size, probably a touch bigger than our blueberries. So sort of that kind of dice is what we want. And we're only going to need 1 to 2 apples for this. And you'll get all of the sort of crunchiness and breadiness of that sourdough, and then the softness and the juiciness of all this fruit. So we'll mix that. That's a pretty good combination of apples and blueberries. Butter can go in now. So mix that butter in. So I'll pour my mixture over the top of all of my bread. All that custard is going to sort of seep down to the bottom, soak up all of our bread. Fill in all those holes, spread everything out. And the one thing I am missing is a little bit of milk. Just drizzle that over the top. You just want it till you can see the milk starting to come up from the bottom, which that is. So now we want to let that sit for a little while. My oats on top, give us some texture. And some sugar on top. Again, just to try and form a bit of a caramelised crust on top for some texture as well. Some salt. Sweet stuff loves salt. A good amount of salt. A little bit more milk. Now that we've got those extra oats on there, they'll need to soak some of that milk up. Okay. Push everything down again. So our bread and our egg mixture is what's going to hold all this together. And then we've just got these little morsels of fruit and blueberries and crunchy oats on top. I was going to add lemon juice, but I don't think I need to. The acidity in those apples will be enough, I think. All right, so now you would pop that in the fridge, let it, actually, you don't really need to put it in the fridge. You just let that sit out, because then you're putting something that's really, really cold into an oven. It's going to take longer to cook. It's only going to sit for half an hour, and there's nothing there that's going to go off in half an hour. So sit that out, let it soak. You want to get to a point that where you push it, see how you're getting some of the custard sort of come up and fill the spoon? You don't want that to happen. You want everything to be soaked up. So about half an hour will do. And then into the oven.
John Allport has been thrilling passengers for over 30 years here on the Huon River at the Huon River Jet Boats. The 12-kilometre ride lasts half an hour and combines the experience of racing along the top of the river with moments of serenity gliding through Tasmania's wilderness.
Have you done this before, Will?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
I've never done anything like this before in my life. That's a good way to get your adrenaline pumping,
Yeah.
I think. And a good way to see a part of the Huon River I don't think I've ever seen before or never thought I would see.
Yeah, it's an amazing perspective, and you're really getting inland in a tight, winding river that goes through some beautiful scenery, and yeah, again, so close to a major town. We're really lucky.
The next stop is we're off to the apple shed. So something that sort of popped up out of nowhere, and they're doing a fantastic job. I love that they do the winter feast every winter, the solstice, and kind of go crazy around
Yeah.
the time, the pagan ritual.
It's got this beautiful, edgy feel about it, that pagan
Yeah.
ritual. It's very authentic, and it brings a lot of visitors in from interstate, but also a lot of Tasmanians travel, and that's why we support our events, because they get Tasmanians exploring what our island offers and being part of that visitor economy in their own state.
Tim and Elsie Smith began planting their orchard in 1888. Now the business is run by their grandson, Ian, and their great-grandson, Andrew, who have both implemented a number of modern techniques and more recently developed the Charles Oates Distillery. We're meeting with head distiller Tim Jones to learn about their history and taste their award-winning cider and spirits.
Hi Tim.
How you going?
I'm Ben.
Nice to meet you, Ben.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Willie.
G'day, Willie. How are you? Thanks for coming down to Willie Smith's and Charles Oates Distillery.
It's a beautiful setup here.
Yeah, we're super lucky. We're nestled down in the Huon Valley and we're making cider and spirits. I look after cider making and distilling at Willie Smith's Cidery and Charles Oates Distilling. We've got some cider here for you to try, and we've got some of our spirits to try as well.
It's nice. Now, cider, it's gone crazy in Tassie. Is it a nationwide thing that cider's sort of starting to lift its prevalence?
Oh, totally. I think the market's really focused now on high-quality beverages, and high-quality craft cider is in double-digit growth at the moment. A lot of consumers are really looking for that next level of depth in the things they drink. So when we make ciders, people really relate to that and enjoy it.
So are you growing apples specifically for the cider, or is it just the damaged apples that are getting used as a byproduct to make the cider?
Sure. So the majority of our cider is made with the culinary apples that you see in the supermarkets, those same delicious varieties.
Yep.
We have a very large organically certified orchard, and we make our core product organic here out of those apples that don't meet the really specific grade of supermarkets. So consumers want to have a perfect apple when they buy an apple. And
so if there's a hail event or something like that,
exactly.
That's where they'll go.
The apples look perfect.
Yeah.
We're really lucky because when you grow apples for home consumption, you do it very well. So the apples that we get from that process are super high quality.
Yeah.
And I think for us it's really important to let the apples sing when we make our cider.
Yeah.
We really want people to taste the apples, and that's what differentiates our product.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to win the Australian Cider Awards with this last year, so Best in Show at the Australian Cider Awards. And that, I guess, goes to show the industry and the judges and the market are really appreciating these more serious styles.
She's a lot brighter.
Cider apples have these beautiful deep colours when you press them. They oxidise very quickly. And they've got this lovely natural golden hue to them. So
it's heaps sweeter than sparkling wine.
Yeah, you'll find with this variety, we make it in a medium sweet style, but it's got this lovely acid line that cleans it up, which makes
it's not cloying.
No. And it makes it fit beautifully with, as I said, with seafood.
Mate, that was unreal. I learnt more about apples than I thought I ever knew. I'm going to need to go and sit down for a while.
Well, thanks so much for coming to see us.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
And enjoy the rest of your time.
Brilliant.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you.
Cruising around.
Now that is a pretty cool way to spend the day hanging out with the ex-Premier. We looked at a whole lot of apple liqueurs which have come back on trend, and the only way really an apple industry in Tasmania can survive is by value adding to apples. So I'm going to value add to some apples in this recipe. I'm going to make an apple tea cake. It's a classic cake that you have normally with a cup of tea. Like with a lot of cakes, I'm going to start by sugar and butter, mixing those two together. I'm going to take that off so that I can get better access. So I've got about 125 grams of butter and about a cup of sugar. So I'll mix this till it's nice and light and fluffy, and then I'm going to incorporate the eggs one at a time. Now I'm only making a small amount of cake, so I only need 2 eggs. So I've beaten together my eggs, my sugar, my butter, and my cinnamon and my vanilla. So now I need to add my flour, my milk, and my apples, and that's it. Self-raising flour. I'm not going to measure this. It's going to annoy people, I know, but you're just after a certain texture. All right, a little bit of flour in. I need to add a little bit of moisture to it. So we're going to sort of adapt it as we go. Stir this. All right, so now my apples. Grater, I probably need 2 apples. I'm gonna keep the skin on. A lot of people peel the skin, take it off. I love the skin of an apple. Peel, and then a lot of people squeeze the juice out. I'm not gonna squeeze the juice out either. All right, 1 grated apple can go in. I'm going to grate 1 more, and then we'll give it. Then I'm going to stop whisking it with the balloon whisk and start folding it together with a spatula. Another apple in. So I'll get all of my apple in and then fold it together and decide whether I think I need more apple. Get a spatula now. Mix all this together. I'm going to be a bit more gentle now with a spatula. All right, so now we need a little bit of milk. And salt, as I said. Apples and salt, a great combination. All right, let's bring this together. I don't know, I reckon I'm going to be right with just 2 apples. Touch my flour. And I lied. I'm going to do 1 more. I didn't lie. I just decided that I want to make sure that my apple cake tastes of apples and is nice and moist. So 1 more. All right, that's 3 apples now. Now, for the best part, tasting the mixture. A lot of the reason most people bake a cake is to eat the mixture. Oh, yum. Who doesn't love cake mixture? It's so good. Oh, it's nice and salty too. All right, I'm happy with that. Take that off. It's going to be nice and moist because it's got lots of apple in there. The actual batter is still really nice and light and fluffy. I'm happy with that. Just want to butter this. I'm not going to turn this cake out, so it's not in a spring form. I'm not lining it with baking paper or anything like that. Okie dokie. In goes our batter. Cake-handed. And I've got plenty of spring form pie tins. I do it that way a lot. But there's just something about these enamel baking trays that I love as sort of cake trays. And the way in which we eat in our family, and it's a great way of eating, I think, is at dessert time, this all comes out. I like that community idea of sitting down and having something like this together. And I think having it all in one tray like this encourages that. So the last thing I'm going to do is sprinkle some granulated sugar, raw sugar, demerara sugar, so one of those sorts of sugars, one that's been caramelised a little bit on top, just to help us get that like golden crust on top. It's just some caster sugar. So that'll help just caramelise the top. All right. Oven. In it goes. I'm going to tell you sort of 40 to 45 minutes, but until a skewer comes out clean. And sort of the regular cake temperature, 180 degrees. So another way of value adding to the humble apple with a classic apple tea cake dessert. We have definitely done this at our place before, all sat around the table with a cup of tea and had a piece of apple cake with a little bit of clotted cream that takes you back in time, I think, and it's hopefully something that each generation will never forget to do, is take a little bit of time every now and then to sit down and have a cup of tea, piece of apple cake and enjoy each other's company.